And welcome everybody to our fifth career panel through District 59. I'm Bob Murphy. I'm the principal at Friendship Junior High. I appreciate you all coming out and spending your evening with us. We have featured law, we have featured engineering, we've featured the visual arts, healthcare, and this evening we are very fortunate to talk specifically about careers in public service, and more specifically, police and fire. So and EMT and paramedics as well. So thank you so much for being here. I'm going to go around the Zoom room here and make some introductions. But before I do that, I just do want to remind everybody to please change it from gallery view to speaker view on your Zoom settings, so that way you're seeing everything really well. And we are going to allow for questions at the end. So over the course of the presentation this evening, please chat any questions you have. It'll go directly to Ms. Blue, who our counselor is here. And towards the end, or even if there's an opportunity in the middle, we will take a break and get some questions from our audience for our panel here. All right, so I do want to introduce Samantha Blue. She's the counselor from Friendship Junior High. She's going to be co-hosting with me this evening.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for coming.
And I am going to go around the room and I'm going to give everyone a minute or two to introduce themselves to our audience here. And I'm going to start with Mr. Randy Fraze, who is a fireman and paramedic. Randy?
Hi, my name is Randy Fraze. I'm a firefighter paramedic in unincorporated Des Plaines, the North Main Fire Protection District. We cover unincorporated Des Plaines. I've been a full-time firefighter for 14 years now. I'm also a paramedic, so I do both, firefighter and a paramedic. Other than that, that's a little bit about me.
All right, well, welcome. Thank you, Randy, for being here. Each panel that we've had, we've also invited a current high school student who is in the career pathway. Each of these monthly presentations that we've had has aligned with District 214's 16 career pathways. And so Mr. Colin Mahoney here is in the fire science pathway, and I'm going to allow him to introduce himself and share a little bit about what he's doing right now.
Hello, everybody. My name is Colin Mahoney. I'm currently a senior at Elk Grove High School, and I am enrolled in the Harper dual credit class for the fire science program at Harper College. I'm very grateful to be part of this opportunity at my school, and I think it's going to be a smooth transition into my career path. So,
awesome. Thank you, Colin, for being here. Appreciate it. All right, we have Lisa Shaps from the Mount Prospect Police Department.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa Shaps. I'm currently a detective and the school resource officer at Prospect High School. I've been with the Village of Mount Prospect now for 14 years as a police officer. And prior to that, I worked for the McHenry County Sheriff's Department, also as a patrol officer there. So I'm 18 years into law enforcement.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa, for being here. And Meredith Sloan? Oops, you're still muted.
That didn't take long. So my name is Meredith Sloan. I'm a police officer in Elk Grove Village. I have worked here for just over 14 years. I spent 12 years in patrol, and I'm currently in the crime prevention section. So I do officer friendly and DARE and any public education that is something that the community needs. I engage in that, and I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for being here. And so the way it's going to work is I'm going to go around the Zoom room here this evening and ask some questions of our panel, not only about how they got into their career, but also about any challenges that they had along the way and how they overcame those challenges. Because in each of these panels, we do highlight the fact that their path to get here and everyone's path to get where they are is always some sort of a roller coaster of ups and downs and different things that we've all had to overcome and are currently overcoming. So that'll be part of our interview as well. So I'm going to kick it off and ask Ms. Shaps a question about, at what points in her life did you decide that you wanted to go in law enforcement?
I actually decided that I would say probably when I had started college. I originally wanted to be an English teacher. But my brother, who is 10 years older than me, he was a police officer in Mount Prospect. And every family party and every function, he would just talk about being a police officer. And it sounded like the most fun, coolest job, best thing to do, that I was thinking, you know what, I think I'm going to get my associates and start testing right away, which I did. And I was pretty fortunate. I got hired on by McHenry County. I think they were the second department I had tested for. So he just made this sound like the best career ever. And I hands down think that it is. Every
That's
day
cool.
is an adventure. So love it.
And so you had already started your education coursework.
Mhm.
And so was that hard to make that change freshman year?
No, I was actually, what I had decided, he was the one that said to me, I was about to get my associates. And he said, you know, you could start testing right away. You don't need a bachelor's degree.
Mhm.
Some departments require that, some don't. And I just was like, wow, you know what? Maybe I will start testing and kind of see what happened. I was supposed to go to North Park University. I did get a scholarship there. But I was fortunate that I got hired pretty quickly. So I just I went with that, and I put the teacher stuff to the side. So yeah, it's been great.
Well, and when Miss Shaps here said that she put it to the side, she literally did put it to the side, because as we were talking about before we got on here, you have plans to go back into education when you retire from the police department. So I thought that was so cool. And would you mind just talking a little bit about
Sure.
what your second career plans are?
Yes, my second career plans. I was telling them before you guys all joined, I am in my senior year now at Eastern Illinois University online. I am going to get my bachelor's degree in psychology, and I plan on going right into my master's. I have 7 years till I retire, and I would like to be a high school guidance counselor. Now that I am back at, now that I'm working in the high school, and I work, oh, I apologize, those are my dogs, hold on.
That's okay. Canine unit has awoken. We can come back. We can come back. It's all right. All right. So I'm gonna go to Miss Sloan here. So at what point in your life did you decide law enforcement was for you?
So when I completed my bachelor's degree for education, I did student teaching, and it didn't connect for me.
Yeah.
It's kind of devastating as a 22-year-old to think you know what you're going to do and to pick this path, and then all of a sudden it's just not what it is anymore. So I just was kind of racking my brain. What am I going to do? What even interests me? Because you hear about people sitting behind a desk and being frustrated and bored. And I was like, I just don't think I can do that. And some of the things that interested me were law enforcement and general, federal, local, anything. So I thought the path to federal was to get on a local police department and kind of get some experience, but I ended up really liking it. So I've stayed because I can stay by my family. I enjoy what I'm doing. I like the people I work with. So it happened by accident, but it wasn't what I intended, but it's where I should be. So I'm pretty happy about it.
All right. So you're 22, and you just get done with student teaching, and you just gone. Where'd you go to college?
I went to Western Michigan University.
Western Michigan. All right. So tell me about the conversation with your parents when you said, that was cool, but I think I'm going to do something.
Well, not every, it's important to know that not everything is easy. Yeah. And not everything worth doing is easy. And I'm fortunate that I have two parents that just wanted me to find my path and do and make a living and not have to rely on them. So that was what was important to them. And
cool.
When I said, this is what I want to try, they said, okay. And I worked other jobs to support myself until I got hired on. So they were okay with it because I didn't give up. I moved on and tried something new and succeeded in it eventually. So
that's cool. Yeah, it's just, I just wanted to hit in on that point because, it is important to know that, even after you had made that investment, if it wasn't in your gut, it's not too late to change. And I'm going to go back to Lisa here, who threw some tranquilizer pills at her dogs, and they're all good now. And she's now going to go back into education in 7 years. And so you're how many years into law enforcement?
I'm 18 years into law enforcement, 14 years with Mount Prospect.
So
and I just being
Go
at the
ahead.
school has kind of been an opportunity to see that I really enjoy working with teenagers.
Yeah.
I really wanted to be like a high school English teacher. That was kind of my dream. And I really like being there. I like that I get to, talk to kids and kind of make these positive impacts, especially I think for law enforcement. I feel like I'm always trying to like build these connections, and it's just been a really unique experience. It's not something that we get to do, obviously, being a police
Mhm.
officer. We're dealing with everybody. So being there has just been like, it was really like an awakening, like, wow, I really think that this is where I want to work when I'm done.
So, but prior to getting the assignment to be the school resource officer at Prospect High School, had you even thought about this as a second career, or was that really that was being in the school was like, wow, this is
Yeah,
I
but
like
being
this.
in the school, I mean, I really always wanted to be the school resource officer. That was kind of a dream. I was in patrol there for 12 years. So I
Okay.
did 9 years on midnights and then the other 3 years on days. So I mean, patrol is like where I'm at in my heart. I love being a patrol officer. There is
Mhm.
nothing like it. I would go back to that in a heartbeat.
Mhm.
I do love that part of the job. I don't want to like downplay that at all because I love it. But I think once I was in the school, that's when it really, I don't know, it just kind of clicked for me. And I had always intended on doing 30 years in law enforcement. I really did. But I think at this point, I just don't think that I want to keep doing that. And now that I'm back in school too, I feel like this is a time for me to just kind of like power right through my master's degree. My daughter is going to start her master's, so we'll
Oh,
start
how
this
nice is
together.
that?
Yeah, we'll actually start our master's degrees together, and she's going to be a special ed teacher. So just life kind of comes full circle. That's how I feel.
Well, that's cool. I mean, it's inspiring. You're 18 years into one career, and you're also a senior in college of another career about to pursue your master's. I think that's really cool.
Thank
Miss
you.
Blue, any advice from a veteran counselor?
I mean, I think it's the greatest job in the world. You get to make a difference with kids. And so, like, I'm happy you had that opportunity to be in the school to realize that that's what you wanted to do. So it's awesome.
It's really cool. And yeah, I mean, I just think your experience is so unique for that position. I mean, just the level of thought you have to go through of de-escalation and getting people in a good place and counseling people. It's such a unique experience to bring to a school. That's really cool.
It's been very unique, even working with my staff at Prospect. I think
Yeah.
I do think police officers have a calming
Yeah.
presence, because I think we're so used to working in chaos that sometimes when
Right.
things just start getting a little bit hectic, I've noticed that it's, I'm able to kind of like, hey, we're going to be all right. What's important now. That's my big thing that I like to say to everybody. What's important now, when.
Yeah.
That's the way that like police officers work. So we kind of de-escalate things that way.
Very cool. Very cool. That's awesome. And Randy, so at what point in your life did you say that this is I want to go into the field of paramedics and firefighting?
Well, my story is pretty similar to the other two. I started at Harper as a history major to do my prerequisite to go to a 4-year school. And then I stumbled into the fire service through, I think I took one of the fire science courses at Harper, and I found that I kind of enjoyed that a little bit more, and finished my 2-year degree, and then got hired part-time and went to the fire academy. So it really wasn't like a childhood thing, or I didn't have a fire helmet when I was a kid or anything like that. I just kind of, in college, I've kind of found my way differently. I started as a teacher, just like the other two, and then found that I kind of wanted to do something else. I didn't want to be on a desk, same as them.
Well, and you come from.
I come from a family of educators. My wife, both my parents, my sister, they're all educators.
Very cool. And his daughter as a future educator, I would imagine, right?
Yeah.
Future educator for sure.
Well, as of right now, yeah, but that changes on a monthly basis.
All right, so I'm going to stick with you, Randy. What would you say is the most fulfilling part of your job?
The most fulfilling is I get to go every third day to work, looking forward to going to work.
Yeah.
Um, I really couldn't imagine doing anything else. I mean, that's the point of life, I guess, is to find something that you enjoy.
Mm.
I couldn't think of, and since I've been where I'm at in the last 14 years, I can't think of one day where I was not looking forward to going into work. Because as far, same on the police side, I mean, we never know what's going to happen that day. There's something new every day that you never encountered before. So
Yeah.
it's kind of just the excitement factor, I suppose, and
Yeah.
enjoying your job. I mean, that's what everybody wants in life. So I guess that's the biggest thing.
So in your field, so you said you never know what to expect. So how are you're either managing what you don't know what to expect, or you're preparing for what you don't know what to expect. So during the times of preparation, what is your day like when you're not managing um, an emergency?
Yeah. So in the fire service, we basically go off the what if factor. What if this happens? And as far as preparation goes and training and things we do, you know, we always joke about it, like, what if that happened? We always joke that that's never going to happen, and then sometimes that stuff happens, and
Yeah.
you're ready for it. I mean, as far as my normal work day, is that what you're?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I work a regular. So we have a schedule. Work 24-hour shifts, but our typical, like, when we come on shift, it's 8 to 5 is normal work day. That's training, doing different things throughout the day, rig maintenance, checks, all that kind of stuff, and then obviously, most days you don't really have a plan because it goes out the window, and you get busy during the day and you can't get stuff done. So after 5 o'clock.
Yeah, and what sort of like scheduled trainings do you have? Like, so what are you preparing for on over the span of a month? You've got to keep your equipment up to date. You got to do the rig maintenance. But like, what sort of planned drills are you doing with
Yeah,
your?
so every day we do our own drills. There could be fire drills or going over EMS stuff. We have paramedic continuing education. That's every month.
Okay.
And then we do quarterly drills with, so you're familiar with NIPSTA, the training center. You got the police officers probably are, up in Glenview, the old Naval Air Base. So we do quarterly training there with all the other departments that are members of NIPSTA.
Mm-hmm.
And that's usually more fire orientated.
Mm-hmm.
We try to do, a lot of our training is more fire related, just because we do more of the EMS all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I like to tell people I'm a paramedic who occasionally fights fires. That's my job. It's the best way to say it.
Yeah.
One day I can be driving the engine, and then the next day I'm on the ambulance.
Yeah.
My position changes every single day. So yeah, training is pretty much every day. It depends on what we're doing for that single day. So
Thanks. And Colin, so you have just listened to 3 people tell stories about changing careers. And so here you are. You're going to be a firefighter. At what moment in your life were you like, this is it?
Yeah, so I don't have much of a story, just like everyone else, but just like growing up, like District 59, like during middle school was very like.
And what middle school were you inspired by, Colin? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but just
Oh
curious.
yeah, Friendship. I attended Friendship Junior High.
Okay. Carry on.
And they were just very like open. They're like, they didn't like push you to anything, but they were like very considerate. They're like you should start thinking about what you want to do in your life.
Right.
Think about what you enjoy in life, what things you don't enjoy. And then also
Mhm.
I continued into high school. And like throughout high school, it took a lot of years to think about what I want to do. I was like, well, what am I good at? And I'm like, what am I not good at? And like, what do I want to do in life? And I was like, well, I know I don't want a desk job because I don't really want to sit like on your normal 9 to 5. It's just not me. I'm a very like bubbly and like outgoing person. And then I thought about like the public service, like how you're out there in the community helping people. You're making like every day, like you're making like change in your community. And that's something I really considered. And that's why I decided to go with this, because like I'm out in the community every day. I'm helping people. And that's what I think my like strive to be a part of this is. So
Awesome.
mm.
Awesome. Thanks.
Mm.
Meredith, So what would you say is the most fulfilling part of your job?
I would like to say it's the textbook, when I help people and things like that. Of course, that fulfills me, but genuinely, the day to day, I'm fulfilled as a person, personally, not professionally. It makes me happy, regardless of what happens at work, regardless of if it's a good day, if it's a bad day. I Even on the worst days, I still want to come back.
Yeah.
So I know that it's fulfilling me personally, and that drives me to come in and work hard, regardless of the circumstances surrounding, a call or just in general. But it is great when someone says you helped them. It doesn't always happen. I don't, if you're looking for that, you're not always going to get it. So you have to find it within you to be satisfied with what you do. But once in a while, I'll get somebody that says, hey, you really helped me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I had no idea, it's for any random reason it could have been. But just being personally fulfilled and is the biggest thing for me. So.
Cool. And Lisa, in every work environment, there's a dependability you have to have on your coworkers. How would you describe that in law enforcement, and how does that feed into your preparation, and how does that feed into the camaraderie amongst you and the other officers, and just explain that dynamic between you and your coworkers, and how that develops, and how that plays out, and how there's dependency on each other.
I think a lot of it, well, right now it's actually really interesting because when they do come to see me at the school, they'll pop in and visit, and I can feel that. So it's very interesting now, kind of being without it and not working so closely with my my fellow law enforcement officers. But I think the training, when we work together, a lot of it's like really intense, and they try to make it very real. We've done a lot of active shooter training, so that's always there. But then the bottom line is, especially working midnights, I'm sure Meredith can agree with this. There are a lot of situations that, I'm sure they're just scary. I mean, people with knives, domestic violence, we go into situations where I think on midnights, especially, those are really police calls that, like, you're earning your money's worth. Your heart is racing, you're running in, we're, setting up perimeters. There are things where it's so intense, and you have to trust these people literally with your lives.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter to me what I think of anyone personally. It's like when we're working together, there really is this like brotherhood, sisterhood. You have to have it because you're trusting them with your life. And there's been a lot of situations, I think, where it's been very intense, and you hear people on the radio, like you can literally hear it in your partner's voices. Like, I know my beat partners, and I can tell when something's going on, like I got to get there. Yeah. So there is that, like, there's that something that it's very hard, I think, if you're not a police officer, to even understand it. Yeah. And then even when I meet other officers, there's almost an immediate trust. Like, if I meet another police officer, I've got a comfort instantly that like I know they've got my back. So I think that's very unique for law enforcement.
Yeah. And that's gotta drive the preparation, right? I mean, there's an inherent accountability that if someone's slacking or someone's, cutting corners on preparation, that it's not only harmful to them, but it's harmful to their team. And so that's gotta create this sort of sense of urgency.
Oh, for sure. And I think another big part of it, I'm going to say and I know, again, because I worked so many years on midnights, and even now, sleeping, resting, eating well, taking care of yourself. Like, when you recognize that another officer is not doing that, especially on midnights, if there are officers that I know aren't sleeping, those are things that we discuss, like, hey, you've got to get more rest. Like, we have to be able to count on each other. I can't have you falling asleep or showing up and, being out of it. Cause that kind of happens. It's really tough to do shift work, but sleeping is so important. It's the one thing, like, even now I am like, I swear by 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
It's, I tell everybody, like, sleep your 8 hours. Yeah. It's a really big deal.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay.
And what about you, Randy? And with, and with your fellow firefighters and paramedics, what is that sort of collegiality, that camaraderie, and what's that dynamic on the team?
Yeah, it's kind of, it's the same. I mean, I suppose it's a little different because we're with closely together for 24 hours. Like
Yeah.
sometimes can have personalities don't always mesh all the time, but
Yeah.
yeah, you have to have trust in every single person you're working with. And if you don't, they're not really part of the team, really.
Yeah.
They're there to work, but if they're not prepared to help you get your back, then, they're not, it's the same situation, just in a different, different aspect. It's fire service versus police officers,
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing. I mean, you have to trust who you're working with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how does
Sleep for us is a little different. We don't have the luxury of getting sleep all the time, but
So, but you do, just for everybody that's out here, during that 24 hours, just give me, give me like sort of like a breakdown. So, because there is, I mean, I know your rest gets frequently interrupted, but you are not up for that 24 hours.
My last shift day I was for the whole 24 hours. I never went to bed. And then, I mean, it changes, ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
As far as our call volume. It seems the winter time is busier than the summer for some reason. I don't know why. I know our December, January, February is our worst 3 months of the year, only because the ambulance picks up. I don't know if there's an effect of the weather on people's health. We get more heart attacks, more cardiac arrests, things like that. It's always the beginning 2 weeks of January is our hands down the worst time of the year for some reason. I don't know. I think it has to do with the stress of the holidays, maybe. I don't know.
Interesting.
I still haven't figured it out in 18 years. So.
And so as a paramedic, how do you stay on top of your training? I mean, you talk about being the first responder for all of these different, life-threatening situations. How do you stay on top of all of the training and keep yourself up to date on everything that you need to know? It just seems like such a wide breadth of.
Yeah, it is. It's gotten more in depth, and just since I've been in the fire service, we're doing more and more things that we weren't doing when I started as a paramedic. And you go back 20 years, they weren't doing any of the things that we do now. We're intubating people in the field. We're doing, we're recognizing 12 leads, STEMI heart attacks in the field, and then we're calling it in ahead of time so they can activate the cath lab, things like that. I mean, it goes back to what I said before about liking your job. I mean, if you like your job, you're interested in it. So
yeah.
Besides the paramedic training that I do, every once a month or 3 hours that we have to get to keep our license.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm reading, publications and things like that, trying to learn my job that much better. I like the EMS aspect of it a little more than the fire, but that's just how I am. And then there's certain guys who like the fire side more than the EMS side, so, we all kind of mesh together well. And, I mean, you have to be interested in it to want to be good at it. That really is what it boils down to.
So, as future firefighters and paramedics out there, you obviously do both. Could I choose to just be a paramedic? Could I choose to just be a firefighter? And what are the positive and negatives of if I just chose one or if I just chose the other? And what are the benefits to having both?
Well, I mean, as far as the fire service is going, it's going more and more of being dually trained, just because fires are getting less, and unfortunately, ambulance calls are going up every single year. We're getting more and more ambulance calls. I mean, not always emergencies, but we're getting more ambulance calls every year.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was the question again?
No, so I think basically your point is, so as far as landing a job in an area that you want to be a desired candidate, having both of those certifications is going to make you it's going to be easier to get a job, right?
Yeah, and typically most of the guys in the fire service, they were paramedics first.
Okay.
And then got hired, because a lot of departments now are giving you preference points, or you can't even take the test unless you're a paramedic first. Okay. There's a lot of opportunities out there to be just a paramedic. You can work for private ambulance companies, or like what I did was a contract paramedic for a couple of years. But yeah, as far as just being a firefighter, it's less and less now. There's some departments out there, in Chicago, they have separate EMS and fire, but other than that, it's getting more orientated to being duly trained. So Basically,
right.
that's the advice I can give is get your EMT basic early and get into
Yeah.
paramedic school as quick as you can if you want to take that career path in the fire
Okay.
service.
Okay. All right. So going back to Meredith. So um, how has the pandemic changed your profession? How has it changed law enforcement in your day-to-day operations, and what sort of different challenges have you had to face in the pandemic?
Well, it has changed it and it hasn't. So the way it hasn't changed is I still have to do everything I was doing before. We still have to go to calls. We can't just say it's a pandemic. We can't be in the same room.
Right.
We have to go. People
Right.
are, still life goes on. People are still having challenges, committing crimes, things happen, accidents, whatever it is. We still have to go. We have to do the exact same job that we would have done a year ago. So the challenge that the things that have changed is that we have to wear a mask now all the time. And it can be kind of, it is what it is, but it's in your way. It might go up and you're like yanking on it and trying to get it. And, we're trying to stay safe so that we can continue to work. If we get sick, then we can't come in. Who's gonna be there? So
Right.
we all have to make sure that we're being safe at work, wearing masks. For a while we were doing that we weren't allowed to ride in cars together. So they had that for a while just to keep people separate. At the beginning of our shifts, we have something called a briefing, which is where we all get together and talk about what's happened the day before, what the expectation is that day, run over if there's a crime that's being committed and they want you to check on it or something like that. That was something we did as a group, and that was how we built our camaraderie.
Yeah.
The fire guys that are there together all the time, we aren't. So
Right.
that's a way for us to connect and be together and learn what is and what isn't. And we weren't doing those. We were just getting sent the information to our computers, and we were expected to just leave and stay on our own. So that was kind of a bummer. But right now we're getting back into having a normal briefing. And
And you had mentioned that you did 12 years on patrol during the afternoons, and for the past 2 years, you've been in crime prevention. So can you talk a little bit about what crime prevention is all about? Obviously all of law enforcement, there's crime prevention, but specifically that focus for you. What are you doing differently than you were doing before in that role?
Okay. Yeah. So everything's virtual, I have to get on the computer and I did a bunch of DARE videos in production with our local TV station, Channel 6, and had them record and help me out in the editing videos so that I could send them out to all the schools. Officer friendly visits are kind of non-existent right now. I am doing a Zoom with the preschool class next week. So that's the best I can do. I'm just doing everything virtual. We canceled the Citizens Police Academy, which is a huge bummer because that's really cool. We really like doing that. That's where people come in and do things that we do, do simulations where there's a call that's serious. How do you react? What do you do? They come in, they see what the canines do. It's kind of it's actually a really good idea if you're interested in the field. I think they sometimes take kids as young as 17, 18 years old. So so we're just canceling and adjusting, but trying to keep engaged because we don't want to lose everything we worked hard for. So
cool. Thanks. And Lisa, you said you're currently the school resource officer at Prospect High School, like we discussed. And you said that, we will have some students on here that are going to attend Prospect High School. But it sounds like this opportunity at Prospect is going to branch out to the other 214 schools. So do you want to talk a little bit about the Teen Police Academy that Prospect High School is starting?
Yes, definitely. We did come up with the Teen Police Academy last year that was going to be 12 weeks. It was going to be longer and offer more kind of in-person hands-on opportunity. This year is going to be our first year doing it when it's down to a 6-week program, and it's going to be all virtual, similar to what Officer Sloan was saying, that it's just really tough now to be in person. But our officers are going to kind of just present different topics. We're going to address like DUIs, the history of policing, evidence processing, like you want to be like an evidence technician, you see CSI on TV, kind of tapping into all of our specialties, but it'll just be online. Hopefully next year, this will be up and running. It'll be an opportunity for our high school students to kind of get in and really see what we do.
Cool.
Up and, just we're the coolest part, which I'm hoping by next year, we're kind of back to normal, because we'll do like mock traffic stops. And that's a really neat opportunity. We're going to just do that in the school parking lot and, have our officers kind of like play the drivers or bad guys, and see, just what it feels like to be a police officer.
That's cool.
And that's going to go along with the career pathways. And then
Awesome.
hopefully I was saying before, I did share this. Mount Prospect has shared this with all of our school resource officers in District 214. So hopefully this will be something, and I've been in contact with everybody at the district, that they really want to see this kind of up and going for all the schools.
It's great. So I think that's a really important point to hammer in here, as all of our students that are on here are going to a 214 school, of the opportunities that Colin has talked about, that's presented through the dual credit opportunities with Harper College, and then what's being started at Prospect with the Teen Police Academy. And so the other important thing to think about here is these are opportunities to not only learn about what you want to do in life, but to learn about what you might not want to do in life, right? I mean, we have, 3 people on here who started in education and who changed their mind and said, I want to either go into law enforcement or firefighting. And so getting those experiences at a young age is so important to figure out what you want to do, but also it's important to figure out what boxes you check of what that looked cool or that sounded interesting, but it turns out it's not something for me. So I do think that's something really important to keep in mind as all of you junior high students are going off into high school, like taking advantage of these opportunities that are in front of you, because they are there. And as someone who spent 13 years in the high school, you've got to take advantage of them, right, Colin? Nobody made you do this. You said, I want to do this, right, Colin?
Yeah, I did. I signed up for the classes personally, so.
Right. So nobody said, hey, Colin, you need to be in the dual credit fire science program. How did that process go about? What did you do to get in there?
How it started was like throughout my sophomore and junior year, a lot of counselors would come in and they would tell us about it's not just the fire service program they have all sorts of programs that they have through Harper, and they just would give us like a sheet that has a bunch of options on stuff that you can take. And it's really nice because District 214, you don't have to pay for them. And it's just a way to learn more about possible careers. And they just give you this sheet and they're like, hey, if you want, you could sign up for any of these and it would just be a part of your normal outgrow schedule. So that was really nice. And I'm glad I took advantage of this opportunity. So
that's awesome. And then I think during a typical year, when you're going to school in person, I do believe they provide transportation to the Harper College classes. I think if I remember that correctly, right?
Yeah, they do. So they said I can either provide my own transportation if you have that option, or they can send a bus over to the school and drive you to Harper. So that was really nice. So
yeah. So not only do you get the coursework, but you can get transportation over there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. All right, and so back to Lisa here. You are a detective during the summer.
That's correct.
So how what is the pathway from? Is there any additional coursework a police officer needs to take to become a detective? How does that process work?
No, generally if you're interested in being a detective, for me, I was, a patrol officer for 12 years. It's just really about when you want to make that transition. Obviously they're very different. Being a patrol officer and being a detective is very, very different. You get to drive in your squad car every day, a marked squad car, you wear a uniform, go to 911 calls. And then when you're a detective, you're really handling the cases that those officers take. And then you kind of do the next steps. So in the summertime, we get general cases, burglaries. We had a lot of semi truck tire thefts. I handled a lot of those. There was a ring of people stealing all of our semi truck tires, and then selling them. That was a big thing. I do handle mostly the juvenile, any type of juvenile follow up is pretty much what I do because I am the school resource officer. And I work with being a juvenile detective is very different than being a regular detective. There's a lot more laws to learn. There's a lot more training involved. And those laws are constantly changing. That's something the juvenile law changes very frequently. So it's really important to stay up on that. But in the summertime, I was handling a lot of those calls. Just anything that our kiddos were getting involved in.
And what sort of pressure is there as a detective? So you've got a police officer that hands you a case, says, hey, this happened. What pressure, like, what do you feel as far as trying to,
I'll tell you what I feel the most is that a lot of people really want to see the bad guys get arrested.
yeah,
And that it doesn't always happen.
yeah,
And that for me has probably been the most frustrating thing. Just recently, I've had just a string of things where I know who the bad guy is. I just don't have enough evidence to press charges.
yeah,
And a lot of times we take our cases to the state's attorney's office, the Cook County State's Attorney. They have to review these cases and they say, we just don't have enough facts. We don't have enough evidence that a crime was committed. And then I feel really disappointed sometimes for victims that, especially when we know something happened and then I can't arrest those people. So that to me, it's disappointing and it's frustrating. And I work really closely with a lot of people that, at the end of it, I know they're still grateful, but I wish that I could, arrest a bad guy.
yeah,
Especially if people, especially if there's kids involved, I just don't like,
yeah,
that's just my own. I've got children. I'm a mom. I have 4 kids.
yeah,
So it is that's a difficult part of my job.
yeah.
Mhm.
All right, so Randy, sticking on the most difficult part of our jobs. What would you say the most difficult part of your job is?
Well, the current climate's been a little rough the last year, but as far as the EMS side goes, and they were talking about the masks and things like that. So when we actually have COVID patients, we have a bigger mask we have to wear. Makes our job a little more challenging. We actually bought them in. They were after 9/11. They were bioterrorism masks that we've converted to fine particulate masks that block the COVID strain or the COVID particles.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the biggest challenge, it's kind of a similar, I suppose, as far as on the ambulance and things like that. People die, and sometimes there's just nothing you can do about it.
Mm-hmm.
You do your best, but I guess that's the biggest challenge, I suppose. Some of the things you see, I guess, build up, and the challenge of carrying that in your brain for your whole life, because you don't really get rid of memories. So things like that, but for the most part, it's more fulfilling than it is bad. So I don't make it sound all bad or anything like that. So
yeah, no, how do you what is the learning curve on that? What is the learning curve on getting, you're never comfortable with it, but getting to a place where it's more manageable, if it's ever manageable.
you mean as far as like if I get worried on a call or like I'm flustered?
Yeah,
That's just being on the job for a longer period of time. It comes with years in the job. I like to think I'm past that, but I'm sure I'll run into something in the future that I'm going to get a little flustered with that I haven't seen before. But
yeah,
it's just about years, and it's like any job. You get better as you go on. Unfortunately, sometimes our job, you don't have the time to sit there and figure things out in a timely manner. You got to make split-second decisions, and you always hope that you make the right one. And a lot of my job is based on standard operating procedures, especially at our EMS. So as long as we follow through those, and but yeah.
And what about you, Meredith? I do. Can you please share what you were sharing with us earlier about crime prevention and how walkways and benches and retail and people's homes? I thought that stuff was so interesting, about things that we never think about in society, that there's someone working on, and that there's someone actively trying to set up our society in a way that makes it safe and that makes it easy to solve crime. So that was so interesting earlier before we started. Can you just share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so the program is called Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design. So CPTED is the acronym. So when they say environmental design, it's not just cameras. You could throw up 100 cameras. It's not necessarily going to deter a crime, but natural surveillance will. So, and by natural surveillance, I mean is people are seeing what's going on. So one of the things you'll notice is where park benches are placed. They're placed facing areas that we don't want crimes to happen in. Obviously parks, playgrounds. If there's a pathway that's kind of in between buildings that might be, I want to say darker, but just not always pass through, they might throw a park bench in there just so that if someone takes a break there, there's somebody watching and just kind of observing what's going on in that area. Where they put walkways, they put walkways where they want you to walk. Sometimes it's in a certain area where, again, past a playground, through apartment complexes, they want people out and about. If it looks like it's unlived in, if it looks like people are not watching, then people think they can do things that they shouldn't be doing. So one of the cool things I've seen is when you see the side of a building in the city painted, you'll see cityscapes, it'll be like kind of an older building maybe, or just a bare building. And they'll actually paint windows on the side, and they'll paint people looking out the windows, and they'll paint, they'll have a local artist come out and do flowers and whatever else that is. That has actually been proven to prevent crime because it creates people to look in that direction, and it draws people's attention to that area. It's just this phenomenon that works. So that's why you'll see that in a lot of major cities, and there's some really cool examples of it online. But rose bushes are a big one. We call it hostile vegetation. So I don't know. But you put something where you don't want people to go, right? So if I'm a bad guy or bad gal, I'm crawling around, I want to go into a window. If there's rose bushes there, I'm gonna get hurt. So guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go to the window without the rose bushes. Yeah. So just things that are inexpensive, that can help you take care of your property better. Schools do it. Businesses, police departments, we do it, fire departments, everybody's been evaluated probably at one point or another. I went to the training. It was really cool because I was there with mostly school officials just saying, hey, how do I make my school safer? What do I do? How do I increase the lighting? Why, when you drive by and you see dull lights in a parking lot and you go, where's the front door? Or when you drive by and it's like, here's the front door, like you can't miss it. So just stuff like that, that's, you don't think about, but now that I've been through the training, it's all I think about, unfortunately. So, but it's cool because you know what, in a transition, just for people to understand, it's a certificate. So when I retire, I could possibly do it to make a living afterwards. So it's something for me, for my future as well, that I also find interesting. So something I can do when I'm in my 50s and just kind of want to lay low a little bit. So.
Well, it's like consulting work, right? You would be a consultant.
You just consult and you just kind of, I do it for businesses all the time now. I do it for free. So.
That's cool. I'll never look at a park bench the same again. I'm thinking about all the parks around my house and I'm like, yeah, they're all facing the playground. That makes perfect sense. Interesting. And we, even in schools, they talk about, when you change the lighting or you update the flooring or you paint the walls, that there's the correlation between the behavior incidents you have that goes down when the lighting's fresher and the ambiance feels better. And so it just that caught my head when you mentioned that. Ms. Blue, do we have any questions we do have some questions. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna let you take over. Go ahead.
Sure. So the first question is, how do you deal with difficult people in your job?
Great question. Who wants to take it?
Is she referring to like people and fellow employees or actual people we deal with on the street?
I think the street.
Yeah.
That would be my guess.
I'll answer.
That's more for the police officers, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for myself, I always try to be as authentic and as vulnerable as I can be, especially right now being in the school. And like I said, I'm a parent, and my son actually, I have 3 older children, 21, 20, and 19. So and one of my children, she was very difficult. So I'm willing to share with people that, hey, I've been there, and like, if their kiddo's in trouble, I get it. I know what it feels like. I think police officers, we're human beings too. I think that's one of the biggest things, is just to remember that we can all relate as people. And, there's no reason not to just talk that way. So I think if you're authentic and you're vulnerable, it's really easy to deal with challenging situations.
I like that. Thanks.
That was great. Thank you for sharing. Next question is, do extreme life situations occur? And if anybody has any examples to share of things they've gone through.
I'm assuming they mean personally, like something personally happens to us.
I think within the role. So like any dangerous situations that you would like to share from your role.
Okay, I'll do one. I didn't know I was pregnant, and I was on a call, and someone decided that they were upset with their family. They tried to hurt their family, saw we were coming and tried to run out the back door. And I was in the backyard by myself, and the person basically ran into me, and I didn't know it. They had a knife in their hand, just kind of behind their back. But because we actually physically collided, I was able to control the situation and not get hurt myself. And then I found out I was pregnant like 2 days later. So that was a little bit much for me, personally too. I was like, I'm in danger, and I'm putting somebody else in danger. So I got to go on desk duty after that. But yeah, that's, and that happens. And when it's happening, you're just responding. And then afterwards, you have the emotional dump of processing and figuring out what you need to do to be okay afterwards. We have to take care of ourselves. I always tell people, don't be afraid. If you need help, you get help. If I have a bad call, I know exactly who I need to talk to get the help I need, and make sure that I can continue to go to work and do my job the right way. So these calls happen all the time. I'm sure Randy and Lisa have multiple examples, as we all kind of work in the same area. But again, it hasn't deterred me from doing the job. So just making sure that I take care of myself and we get through it, then be okay.
And then is there counseling offered for you guys in the station to handle some of these traumatic events too?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, they'll do debriefings where we all sit together and talk about things. We have a social worker in Elk Grove that will help us in traumatic events, help us and help the people in the call too. I don't know. I personally have no problem going to a therapist if I have a bad call, because I don't want to. It's hard to explain to middle schoolers, but you want to get ahead of the problem. So if you see something that bothers you, you take care of it before it really bothers you. So, but maybe somebody else can speak to that as well. I don't want to take up all the time.
Oh, we have a similar thing. We have through our MABUS division, there's a team that they can come respond to any one department. I'm sure that was used recently. Like the city of Des Plaines just recently had 4 kids die in a fire, and I know that they were sent over there to talk to those guys when they got off in the morning. I know a lot of them used it because that was a pretty bad day. I know some of the guys that were on that stuff. So yeah, we have plenty of resources for stuff like that, and it's good to use it. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's great advice. That's great advice for middle school students to hear that.
I mean, that applies not just to your job either in life.
Yeah.
It's always good to talk about things, and if you got something bothering you, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And who to go to and turn to, your trusted adults or people that can support you. Or
your friendly principal at your school, because he's awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I always love this question. So what would you tell your middle school selves?
I guess I'll go. I mean, I guess I would tell myself not to change anything because I mean, where I'm at now in life, I'm pretty happy. So, I mean, that's kind of a bland answer, but um, I guess I wouldn't be sitting here if I wasn't happy with my profession. But as far as that goes, yeah, I don't think I would tell them very much. Some small things not to do when you're younger, but other than that, no. As far as my job and stuff.
Anybody else want to jump on that? We actually don't have any other questions in the chat. So if anybody else.
I'll go. I would tell myself, like, just hang in there. Middle school is confusing. And sometimes I was like, what is life? What is going on? Like, I don't understand everything. And, I don't know what I want to do when I'm older. And I don't even know what I want to eat for breakfast. And, and it just, things start to clear up, and you just got to hang in there and keep pushing on instead of getting frustrated and getting lost in it. And don't get in trouble.
Don't get in trouble.
We all make mistakes, though. I was there.
Do you hear that, Mr. Mahoney?
Yeah.
Any advice from you, Mr. Mahoney, as the most recent junior high grad?
Yeah, I would just say enjoy not having many responsibilities, and also just like explore what you like and what you don't like. Like, find out what interests you, what doesn't interest you, and just get involved with your school, with your community, and just get to know yourself more. Because the more you know yourself, the better aspect you'll have. Like the better your life will be, like, in the long run. So.
Awesome, good advice. And you getting ready for volleyball season, or is it happening? When does it start?
June.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Awesome. Finally, right?
Finally.
Well, cool. Well, good to hear. Well, it is 7:30, and this has been a wonderful conversation. So I really appreciate everybody taking their evening out to share some wisdom with our junior high students. And once again, this is recorded. It'll go up on our District 59 YouTube page in within the next few days, and we will share that out with our families. So anybody that could not make it can watch this, and then once again, this is archived. So we will use this for years to come as our counselor here, Mrs. Blue, if she has a student as they're doing career exploration, they start talking about going into the public service, she'd say, hey, we got this great video for you to watch. It really gives you some in-depth perspective on what the day-to-day life is like with local representatives in that field. So thank you all for your time here, and thanks for everyone that came out. We really appreciate it. If you want to turn your camera on and say thank you, that would be nice. Getting junior high students to turn their camera on is a little bit of a challenge this year, but that's all right. Thank you, Miss Nolan. Appreciate it. Nice to see you, and I see Roxy over there. And there we. All right. Thank you. Hi, Melissa. All right. And someone changed their name to Mrs. Pater.
I want to say we have all the friendship representation amongst the audience, so shout out to you.
Yeah, nice shout, friendship. Coming. Yes. Thank you all, and thank you once again to our panel, and have a good night, everybody. Thank you.